Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cooking with the Vegan Zombie. We have a ton of pizza recipes on our channel over the years, but today I just want to go through and break it down, make it easy for you guys to make a delicious vegan pizza from scratch. Cooking with the Vegan Zombie! So the first thing you're going to want to do when making pizza is, if you have a lot of hair like me, you want to make sure it's back and out of the way. Second, make sure your hands are clean. You don't want any of those zombie germs on your hands when you're making pizza. Okay, so we have a bowl about this big, and then we have 1 cup of warm water. Now you don't want it to be too hot because that will kill the yeast, but you don't want it to be too cold because it won't activate the yeast. What I have here is some yeast, dry active yeast, and we're going to use 1 package of that. And now I have 2 tablespoons of sugar. Make sure you're using vegan sugar. I have coconut palm sugar here. You can use whatever sugar you want as long as it's vegan. We are going to take a whisk and we're going to whisk that together. And you're just going to let that sit for about 5 minutes or so until it kind of bubbles up. Now we are going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And I like to put about a tablespoon of agave nectar in there as well. And this is optional. If you can't find it where you are, that's totally fine. But I like to put about a tablespoon of nutritional yeast in there also. And you're gonna put a teaspoon of sea salt. Now time for your flour. Okay, so I think this comes out best when you use 1 cup of unbleached bread flour. This is a non-GMO flour, and I will put 1 cup in there. The other part is going to be all-purpose flour. And if you can't find bread flour, you can just use all-purpose flour for the whole thing. And you'll have 1 more cup of that, and you'll just kind of set it on the side. So I got a wooden spoon right here. Make sure you don't get this all over the place. If you have a KitchenAid, that works really well. Put that one in there as well. Okay, so we got in here 2 cups of all-purpose flour and 1 cup of bread flour, and we will mix this together until you can take it out with your hands and mix it. You want to knead this for at least 5 or 10 minutes because gluten is activated when it is kneaded like this and pulled apart, and that will make your pizza crust stretch. If you don't knead it enough and you go to stretch it when you form your shell for your pizza, it will rip apart. So if your crust rips apart easily like that, it's because you didn't knead it enough, and it needs you. If it gets too sticky and starts sticking to your hands, just use a little bit more flour. Sometimes I'm impatient and I don't like to do this as much, and the pizza doesn't come out as good. You got to spend time on this. You got to get that gluten activated. Sorry, gluten-free people. I'll come up with a recipe for a gluten-free crust next time. Now, where did I learn how to do this? I worked in many different pizza places when I was younger. So I kind of just picked it up there and figured out how I would make vegan versions. It really works your arms out. So it's like a good exercise to make pizza. Okay, this is going to rise, and I'm going to just cut this in half. So I have 2 pizza doughs, and then I just kind of fold them underneath like that and squeeze them together. And then I have a little pizza ball for a pizza. Now you're going to take that bowl after you cleaned it out, pour just a tad bit of olive oil in there, and this is just so the dough, when it rises, doesn't stick to the sides. See what I'm doing there? Just kind of getting all the sides nice and oily. Now we are going to take a wet towel and place it over the top, and we're just going to put it in a warm, dry plate. I like to put it in the microwave. If you have one, just don't turn it on. And now we're going to wait about 20-25 minutes for that to rise and double in size, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what to do then. Okay, it's been about a half an hour, and I'm just going to take my dough, which doubled in size, and I'm just going to punch it down a little bit. Knead it a little bit more, get those air bubbles out, put it right back in there. We're gonna let it rise up 1 more time, and then we're ready to go. All right, our dough's just about ready. You can keep letting it rise if you want for an hour or 2. It took about an hour here. Now, when it's time to stretch out your pizza dough, I like to use one of 3 different techniques. I'll either put some flour down, a little bit of oil down, or some coarse cornmeal. Today I'm just going to use a little bit of flour. Put that down. The oil will obviously give it a crispier crust, but it'll still be a nice crust like this. Okay, so your dough, you want to get that flour on the bottom so it doesn't stick to your counter, and a little bit on the top there, like that. Okay, so now this is what I do. From the outside, I just go on like that, and I get all the air bubbles out of it, and then I kind of go into the middle, just like that. Okay, so now we got most of the air bubbles out. And then you're gonna go in the middle like this with your fingers. There is a tool for this, which I don't have, and it's a lot easier that way, but you're just gonna kind of go like this, get all the air bubbles out, and it's gonna make it easier to stretch, like that. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna form what's gonna be the crust. So you go like this and you kind of pinch it together between your hand right here and your index finger, and you kind of just go just like that, and you just turn it. I go clockwise until you have that. So now you have what looks like a pizza, but we're not done yet. We got to stretch it. So I'll take my knuckles and I'll just kind of move it like this as we go around and around, and gently stretch it. And again, if your dough breaks, that means you didn't knead it enough. It needed you a little bit more. And this looks like a nice crust. You can also get all fancy and shoot it in the air. There you go. That's a perfect crust like that. But since today is February 14, I think what we're going to do here is we are going to make this into the shape of a heart. Zombies' hearts don't beat. Pinch that together like so. And pinch that together down at the bottom. Obviously you don't have to do this. Okay, there we go. There's our crust. Now we're gonna put some sauce on it. I have the Wegmans store-bought vegan tomato basil sauce, as you can see right here. I really like this sauce. It's cheap, it's vegan, it tastes good. We do have a sauce recipe. If you do want to make your own, you can check that out. I like to put a good amount of sauce on my pizza. And if you have a ladle, that's the best. I can't find my ladle, so I just have like a little spoon here that I'm going to spread out the sauce. And you don't have to put sauce on it if you don't want. I mean, you could make a garlic pizza. You can make an Alfredo pizza, a barbecue pizza. Those are some great ideas, which I've done in the past. I'm just showing you a simple, we're going to make like a margarita pizza. I like my pizzas to be pretty simple rather than having a ton of stuff on them. We've got what is going to be the start of a delicious pizza. Now it's time to put the cheese on here. You can use whatever your favorite vegan cheese is. You can make your own. You don't have to put any cheese on it at all if you don't want. My personal favorite is, most of you already know from seeing my other videos, is Miyoko's mozzarella. It's my favorite cheese. I got coupon codes below if you're interested. But I have had a few people comment and ask me how I use it because they said it didn't melt for them. So I'm going to show you the best way to use Miyoko's cheese. This is a vegan mozzarella. It comes in a package like this, and it's very like creamy. You can pull it apart. If it's too creamy, you can't really put it through a shredder, and I like to shred mine. So what I like to do is put it in the freezer before I'm going to use it for about an hour or so, just to get it a little bit harder. I don't like to freeze it completely. I have done that before. You freeze it overnight, the next day you let it thaw out, and then it has an entirely different like consistency. It crumbles apart nicely, but I just prefer it this way the best. Sometimes when you're on the go and you don't have time and you didn't freeze it beforehand, what I do with it is I'll take it and I'll smush it into like a circle and put it on that way. So I just have a food processor right here with a shredder on it, and the cheese was in the freezer for probably an hour. So I'm just gonna put it in here, turn it on and shred. It's a very creamy cheese. It's a cashew based cheese. It's a little pricey. Like I said, you will get a discount if you use my coupon code. I'm gonna use the whole thing. I'm just gonna kind of get it all in there nice and even. This is a lot easier than breaking big clumps off of the cheese and put it on there, because sometimes it stays like that and it doesn't melt as good like that. But this way, it's gonna melt perfectly and it's gonna taste great. Now you can put some spices on this if you want, garlic powder. I like to put some dried basil on now. It's gonna cook right into it. And then at the end, I will put some nice fresh basil on there, be a margarita. And there we go. That is our heart-shaped pizza about to go in the oven. I have the oven at 430 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna put it in there for 10 to 15 minutes. Here's another little secret I like to do. You don't have to do this, it's optional, but I like to make that crust just a little bit tastier. So I'll have just a little bit of water in here, and then I'll take some of my sauce that I have left over. I'll pour that in there. You want to grab a brush, and you want that sauce to be nice and diluted with water. And then I have a little bit of oil and agave nectar. Just a little bit of that. You don't have to put the agave and the oil in there. You can just do the water. But this makes a really nice, almost kind of like a saucy glaze. With the help of some pot holders so I don't burn my hands off, I'm going to take that pizza out halfway through the cooking process. So that's what we got right now. And what I am going to do is I'm going to paint this around the crust, just like that. And I'm even going to go a step further. You can keep it just like this, but with this crust like this, you can also put on like sesame seeds or something like that. I have the everything bagel seasoning that I got from Trader Joe's, and I'm just going to put that on there. I have like a nice flavored pizza crust. It smells like an everything bagel. It tastes like an everything bagel. And now it's going to go back in the oven until the pizza's done. But look at that. Can you see it? I don't want to drop it. Nice, smells delicious. Let's put it back in there. Another little tip for troubleshooting: if the top of your pizza is nice and done, but the bottom doesn't look quite cooked, you can always take it right off the pizza tin and let it cook in the oven like that. But be careful when you do it. I think our pizza's ready. Look at that pizza. That's the perfect pizza. The cheese melted perfectly. We got kind of a heart shape there with a nice everything pretzel crust. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put some fresh basil. Fresh basil smells so good. We're just going to put that right in there into the cheese. That cheese melted perfectly. And it's got little bits of the dried basil in it as well. And then you're going to want to cut it right away as soon as it's out of the oven. All right, and now make sure you have a nice sharp pizza cutter. There it is, my heart-shaped pizza. I don't even have to try it. I know it's delicious, but I'm going to try it. Here we go. Look at that crust. The bottom came out perfect. The inside is nice and fluffy. The cheese melted nicely. We have that bagel crust with nice color on it. The bottom of the crust is nice. That's my dog. This is really, really good. Hi, Andy. Now you know how to make the perfect pizza, and you can even make it heart-shaped. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe, survive, watch out for zombies, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm taking this with me.